Even in the annals of the nation's highest military decoration, the actions of Marine Sergeant Dakota Meyer were extraordinary. 2 years ago, Meyer, joined by fellow Marine Juan Rodriguez Chavez, went directly into a hail of enemy fire in the Ganjgal Valley of Afghanistan's Kundar province, rescuing 36 U.S. and Afghan comrades caught in a Taliban ambush. That's what President Obama saluted as he bestowed the Medal of Honor on Sergeant Meyer.
4 times Dakota and Juan asked permission to go in. 4 times they were denied. They were told, too dangerous. But one of the teachers in his high school once said, when you tell Dakota he can't do something, he's going to do it. And as Dakota said of his trapped teammates, those were my brothers, and I couldn't just sit back and watch. The story of what Dakota did next will be told for generations.
As the president alluded, there was another element in this story that is unusual. Meyer and Chavez were acting on their own. All in all, as chronicled in a piece in today's Wall Street Journal, this battle has entered military folklore and resulted not only in today's Medal of Honor, but in 2 Navy Crosses, 2 investigations for dereliction of duty, 3 letters of severe reprimand, and a recommendation for a 2nd Medal of Honor. The writer of that line was Bing West, himself a former Marine captain and now author of several books on the military. He was at today's ceremony and joins us now. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
September 2009, a remote village in Afghanistan. Set the stage for us. What were U.S. forces doing? What were they about?
Well, I had been out there for about a year off and on with this unit, and they were right on the Pakistan border, right next to the infamous Korangal Valley. And they were supposed to interdict the al-Qaeda and Taliban troops that were coming into Afghanistan from Pakistan. And in this small remote village called Ganjgal, the villagers said, will you come in and help us with a mosque? So 100 Afghan soldiers with their American advisors went in thinking they were going to help them, but it was a setup. And they ran into a terrific ambush.
Now, he then Corporal Meyer, right? We referred to him as Sergeant, but he was a corporal at the time. He heard the calls for help, for artillery fire, which were refused.
Correct.
On grounds that what? It might hurt civilians?
Exactly. They were in the middle of the village, and people up the chain of command choked, didn't really understand how severe the firing was, and didn't respond. And there was a captain by the name of Swenson, an Army captain. He kept saying, you have to shoot. They weren't shooting. So this 21-year-old Corporal Meyer said, they're in trouble, we're going in. And he got in the turret of a Humvee, and he and Chavez Rodriguez, a sergeant, drove into the middle of a huge ambush, all by themselves. They picked up 12 wounded Afghans, brought them out. The truck was shot to pieces. They got into a 2nd truck, went back in again, and this time Meyer is shooting al-Qaeda and Taliban to the right and the left as he goes in, picks up some more wounded, comes out, changes to another truck, goes back in a 3rd time, brings out some more Americans, goes back in a 4th time.
Because he realizes the 4th time, before the 4th time, that there were still...
Some were missing.
Some missing, yeah.
And he wasn't going to leave anybody out there. He went in 5 times to try to bring everybody back out. 5 times. And the other side at first was saying, if you Americans will surrender, they were saying this over the radio, we will allow you to surrender. And at the end they were saying, kill him, kill him, kill him. And they couldn't. And he was killing them. 21 years old.
We refer to the investigations after the fact, the reprimands. Explain that. Take us through that a little bit. What happened in the aftermath of this?
Well, those things, I don't mean to trivialize it like a football game, but people are going to do mistakes and people are going to get it right, and the question is who's standing in the end. Meyer was standing in the end, but our bureaucracy had the sense to say this was wrong, and so they're investigating carefully to determine what happened, what went wrong, and why. That led to severe reprimands, reliefs of command, and now it's probably going to lead to another high-level medal for Captain Swenson.
Yeah, now tell us about him. He was
there. He was Army,
captain.
So it was Army and Marines together. And what I found remarkable about it, even though I knew them all, was that they didn't know each other that well. But when this fight and all the chips were on the table and they weren't getting any help from higher up, they all banded together, and Meyer showed the initiative at 21 years of age to take another group of people and say, come on, we're going to win this battle. And they did. I mean, it was just just by sheer determination and initiative.
And if I understand this right, Captain Swenson left the Army without
Nothing.
having been honored at
Right,
that point.
right.
And it's only after the fact
Well,
that it's gone up and people have realized what happened, and now he's in line for a medal.
A new commander, General Allen, took over in Afghanistan. He heard about this, and he said, wait a minute. He said, what's going on here? He asked for another look at all the records, and he said, this is the only right thing to do. We're going to send Captain Swenson in for a high award because he deserves it. So he opened up a record from 2 years ago and said, we're going to correct this mistake.
Tell us about Dakota Meyer. You've met him?
Oh, I know him quite well. Dakota comes from Kentucky. He comes from a farm. He's a tough kid and very, very determined. I mean, when Dakota makes up his mind, it's very difficult to change his mind.
That's pretty clear, isn't it?
Oh, it is, but he has those virtues that he's going to stand by you. He's going to let you know exactly what he's thinking, and you're not going to shake him. And when he went into this battle, he refused. He thought he was going to die, but he wasn't going to change his mind. I think it's a great credit to us, Jeff, as a country that we have those young men who have that kind of initiative and determination, and he really had it.
He got the Medal of Honor. Several of
Medal
the
of
others
Honor.
got very
Navy
high.
Crosses. And today I thought a great thing about the White House and about our country. When we went to the ceremony, there weren't politicians there. There weren't CEOs there. The only people who were there were all the people from the battlefield, corporals and sergeants, in the greatest White House in the world, celebrating one of their own. And I think there are very few capitals and very few nations that would really do that. I mean, the president opened up the White House to the corporals and sergeants, and he did it so naturally. And I'm not a Democrat, but he did it so naturally. You could tell that he just felt this was the right thing to do.
I watched the ceremony, and I was watching now Sergeant Meyer. Could you tell how this all affected him?
Whoa. Dakota doesn't feel that he deserved a medal because he went in for the sake of his 4 friends, and they died before he got there. And he keeps saying, you know, I didn't do it. I failed.
He got their bodies out.
He got everything, and he turned the battle, but in his own mind, he keeps saying, if I had really done my job, I would have gotten them out alive. And that's the president was saying to him even today, Dakota, you couldn't. You did all you could. But, you know, he has that indomitable spirit. If I could have done better, I could have changed everything.
All right, Bing West, thanks so much.
Thank you.